PHLY.com laying out this game. He says it's either the Chick-fil-A game because of course, everyone winning their nuggets, courtesy of Caleb Martin, or the Nick Batum game. I'm going with the Nick Batum game mixed in with the chicken nuggets because, man, they would not have won this basketball game without that guy scoring 20 points in the second half. Some big three-pointers, the big block of Tyler Hero towards the end of the game, sending the 76ers to New York as the 7th seed to take on the number 2 seed Knicks beginning on Saturday evening. Welcome to the PHLY Sixers post-game show. Derek Bodner, Devon Givens, we've been talking to you since 6:30. And we're going to talk to you for a little bit.
I haven't even started yelling yet.
I've been yelling. Derek has his water. I have my tea right here, so bear with me. I'll get to that shortly. Bree is kind of like slumped over in the chair because she's all tired. We've had some food. We love hanging with you guys. And this is why, Derek, when we were talking about it earlier and we were discussing basketball, playoff basketball, you never know who the hell is going to come through in any given moment to win you a basketball game. And for me, like Derek and Kyle and I talked about, Bree, of course, with us, all of you, that we were discussing so much with Tyrese Maxey, and we said, who's that third person? Who's that other person that's going to step up in the moment and help them win the game? Now, we said Kelly Oubre, and he had 11 points, and he played better in the second half, had some big possessions, made some free throws down the stretch, too. Of course, they needed it after Tyler Hero hit that three-pointer at the very end. Yeah. But Nick Batum's, you never know who is going to be the hero of a game. And the thing was, he wasn't playing hero ball. He wasn't trying to do too much except for in the first half where he was terrible. But the second half, he settled down, and you needed a veteran like that to play the way that he did to help the 76ers secure this basketball game with his IQ, which we mostly complained about, us here on the set, you in the chat, of how poorly they were playing, not playing 76er basketball, and him being one of the ones that we trusted. And in the second half, he showed us why he is the one that we speak about so often with the way that his smarts, his decision-making, his shooting with the quick trigger from the outside and the three-pointers is a big part of that. And he did that in the second half. His defense on everyone from Jimmy Butler to Tyler Hero and Bam Adebayo, where he made a difference on both ends of the floor. And there was at one point where he missed one of his three-pointers, one really missed three that he had tonight, where I looked at Derek and I said, if I'm Miami, I live with that because of how he shoots it so unorthodox, where he has to catch high, shoot high, never bring the ball down. But he made them pay by making, on the evening, coming off the bench, 6 of 10 three-pointers tonight. And he is clearly the hero, the reason why they won this basketball game. And without him, they will be getting ready to play on Friday against either Chicago or Atlanta. But they are not, because of how great his performance was tonight, Derek.
Stat here from StatMuse. They tweeted out after the game. Sixers went on a 56-45 run after winning free chicken. It's not just the local people that are picking up on the brickin' for chicken, but now the national media are in tune with how important that was in that game.
It was huge.
Huge.
Caleb Martin missed 2 free throws, and as a result,
we joke about the chicken, but the 2 free throws in the game that came that close.
That was part of that 9-0 run that they went on.
Yeah, and that run that really turned the game around. Going back to your point, Nico was so bad in the first half, throwing so many passes that were forced, that were a little bit of KYP, where feeding him into Embiid when Embiid was triple teamed, and it was just so unexpected. Because if there's one thing you expected from Nico, look, it's one thing to make the shots. And what did he end up with? 20 points on 6 for 10 shooting from 3. That's not going to happen every night. That's not going to happen most nights. And it's good that it happened tonight because they needed every one of those made threes. But it was a decision-making in the first half that was just baffling. And he came out in the second half and he did everything right. He was at the right spot to be an outlet valve for a pass against the zone. He was making those threes, quick trigger, no dip threes, that he's probably the only one on the team can get those shots off.
Yeah.
And he was making the right reads and the right passes. And again, on a night where Joel Embiid didn't have it for most of the night, Tyrese Maxey didn't have it for most of the night, your stars that you relied on didn't have it, especially in the half court, especially in the first half against the zone. You needed a good defensive effort all around. And I think for the most part, you got that. When the Sixers really gave up points, is when Miami got out in transition, and that was mostly an offensive problem leading to poor defense, or at least leading to defense that you couldn't really come back from. It wasn't a defensive problem. So I'm trying. Look, I've been here a long time. I'm talking a long time.
Bear with us.
I'm saying that was an offensive execution problem, not a defense problem. So you had the defense necessary outside of maybe some defensive rebounding issues. You needed someone to flip that game.
Sure.
And I don't think Joel Embiid ever really left the imprint on the game that you were hoping for. Nico Batum did. And is that going to happen every night? No. But I think one nice thing about this team, you have various players throughout up and down this lineup that can give you a shot when you need it. And what was frustrating about the first half is not only did the team look like they didn't know how to respond to the zone, not only was Embiid slow to get into all of his stuff, not only was Maxey searching and turning the ball over in ways that we never see him, but you weren't getting anyone else to step up either. Nobody was there to lift up your stars. In the second half, you got that in a big way from Nico.
You really did. And it's, you look at being down double digits, 15 that they were, going into halftime and looking at how they were playing. I asked Derek, what do they need to do going into halftime to cut that lead, to shorten that number? And we were just like, look, just play better. We'll worry about the number later. Then we adjusted that to 5. Get it to 5 going into the fourth quarter. It was partly because of the big plays that he made, and again, the decision-making. The no-dip threes that Derek talks about, that was huge, making 6 of 10, because for the most part, none of them could make an outside shot. Buddy Hield had a stretch there where he made some. Campaign came in for his short number of minutes, his short run tonight. He made a three-pointer there in that 3 minutes and 29 seconds. That was important, off of a pass from Joel Embiid. His speed was a difference in showing where they needed that from him as well. But the way that they then protected the basketball in the second half, they ended up with 16 turnovers on the night, 10 of which were in the first half. And Nick Batum was also a big piece of that. But with his poise, his outside shooting, not forcing anything, because he had that one turnover in the first quarter. Then in the second quarter, he also had another turnover. So he had 2 with 3 points in that run. But to come out in the second half with the things that he was able to do, playing in that third quarter, making all 3 of his threes, 2 rebounds, not turning the basketball over. Fourth quarter, 8 points, a blocked shot on Tyler Hero at the end. That is very, very important, clearly, because Tyler Hero had it going on. He had 2 rebounds there and made 2 more threes in 9 minutes and 39 seconds to run. Folks, he was on the floor for the entire fourth quarter. He got a breather. We said, hey, he might be tired. Nick Nurse is going to have to figure something out. Yeah. But the hot hand was there, and you had to figure it out and get him right back into the basketball game, and that's exactly what he did. And Nick Nurse, we'll talk about him a little bit later, but Nick Batum, man, when a lot of people, when the trade happened earlier in the season, and we talked about the depth that they now have at the wing position, the versatility they have. And let's keep it back when Marcus Morris Jr. was also still here, because he was a part of that. Healthy Robert Covington. Healthy Robert Covington so much where even when Robert Covington played, he didn't play much. And when he didn't play, we're like, where's Robert Covington? Because they had a plethora of wing guys, and this was before DeAnthony Melton went down, so that was also another piece of their wing depth and their defense. And Patrick Beverley was still here. He was playing well, being able to guard multiple positions, even though he's short in height. Of course, he fights and does what he does against even taller players. So they had a deep roster, but the thing that we all pointed out was having connected players like Nick Batum, Marcus Morris, Robert Covington, DeAnthony Melton. This team is a deep basketball team right now. Now, some of them have moved on, and you brought in different pieces in Payne and Hield to add to that, with Lowry now starting because Melton is out, Covington also out. Batum is still in there, still making the plays. There was talk that he might retire when he did get here because he was missing time being with his family, and there was unclear of what his future was going to be with the 76ers in the immediate. And here we are in April, where we talk about March Madness. Sometimes when you look at situations there, right? March Madness, you make a name. You have an opportunity. You play for a smaller school. You even play for a big school, but you put yourself on the map because of the significance of what the tournament is. And the same goes for the NBA playoffs, where players have their moments. Nick Batum has been around for a long time. He's played for Portland in big games. He was in Charlotte when they were making some sporadic runs towards the postseason. He certainly made plays there. He's gotten some big contract. He's gotten big money. He's been a starter his entire career. Here he is, where there was talk again about him possibly retiring. He's coming from LA, where he was playing pretty well there. They include him in this deal, and we didn't know what was going to happen. And once again, here we are in the spring in a play-in, as he mentioned, where we were all at the practice facility on Tuesday, and his availability after practice. He was asked about the significance, of course, of this game, and he said it's a game 7, essentially, even though they would have opportunity to play 2 should they have lost this game tonight. This was a game 7. He stepped up big. This was his moment. I don't know what those moments will be like against the New York Knicks now that they're going to play them in this upcoming 7-game series beginning on Saturday. But he certainly did his part to earn the right for people to talk the way that they're talking about him in the chat, of build him a statue, sign him to an extension, even though he's 36.
How big of a statue would that be, Devon?
He's probably paperweight, like real paperweight worthy, where they should have a Nick Batum night during the playoffs where they give away something. Viva la France, as Money Mark said.
Not quite Legends Walk.
Not quite Legends Walk. Not yet.
But another half like that, maybe?
Maybe.
Okay.
Maybe. But he has certainly earned the opportunity for people to talk about him the way. And again, that's why the playoffs are the playoffs. That's why March Madness is March Madness, because you never know who's going to step up in the moment. And you have team doing what team needs to be done to win the game. And that's certainly what you got tonight, with the connected players playing a part in helping to win this game when your 2 all-stars struggle in this particular contest.
I'm so happy that Batum stepped up like that. I did not want to have this post-game show where we're breaking down a game. Again, we have it right here on a tablet. We're breaking down a game against the winner of the 9-10. And, oh, man, are we worried about the Bulls? And even if they beat the Bulls, they're losing to the Celtics. No, this performance from Batum sets up a series against a tough team, against a tough Knicks squad. Don't get me wrong. Maybe the second toughest potential opponent left in the playoffs right now, if Giannis isn't able to get back to where he was.
Yeah.
But a winnable series, a series that they have a chance in, a series that if they win, you can then advance to what now looks like a injured Milwaukee squad or a flawed Indy squad. And I'm not trying to put the cart before the horse. I'm just saying there is now hope left in the season, whereas this could have gotten real dark and real doom and gloomy real quickly. We would have gone from an exuberant pregame to a completely dead and lifeless postgame. And some of that wouldn't have been fair because crazy stuff happens in playoffs. Teams do stuff you don't expect. I wouldn't have wanted to write their obituary yet, even if a lot of fans would have, but it would have gotten dark. And that's part of what's magical about the playoffs. You have completely, I don't want to say completely, no, it is completely unexpected. I expect Nico Batum to make a 3, maybe finish with 6 or 8 points.
Yep, I was going to go 7.
Make good connected passes, but never in my wildest dreams do I expect 17 points from Nico Batum in the second half to carry you to a victory. And that's what makes this time of year magical. It doesn't matter if Nico Batum can do this over the course of a season.
Nope.
It doesn't matter right now if he can do it over the course of a 7-game series. By his almost individual brilliance, the Sixers have a new lease on life, and that's great. And that's exciting, and that's entertaining. It could also be the start of something magical, and I hope that's the case. Yeah.
Seeing it from Brian Herring in the chat. We are so back. Brian, you are not kidding. If you watched us during the watch along and how we were reacting after that first half.
The first half was dark.
Yes, we are so back because this thing could have been completely different tonight with this post game because of what we saw in that first half. And if he did not turn things around in the second half like he did, Nick Batum, we would not be sitting here talking about it again. In the second half, the Sixers won the second half alone, 66-53. And he was your leading scorer in the second half with 17 overall points, Nick Batum. 17.
It's wild.
17. He shot 6 for 10 in total.
I don't have time right now. We're busy doing a show.
Yeah.
Find the last time Nico Batum scored 17 points and a half. I'm honestly curious.
And I'm sure he did it in his Portland days because that's how good of a shooter he was and slasher and stuff. But that was a long time ago.
Yeah.
That was a long time ago for him to score 17.
Charlotte Nico Batum did it at some point.
He could have. Yeah. I don't know if he did, but just because they were so bad, he probably was like, I don't know, missing
he was getting paid enough. He should have dropped 17 and a half.
He certainly should have. But guess what? That's their problem, not the 76ers. Because of him, we are now sitting pretty, at least going into it, some optimism going into a 7-game series against the New York Knicks. We'll talk about it a little bit more. 32-8, Ash says, with who in the lineup, Joel Embiid, LFGPS. Joel was 80% tonight, was that game, and watched him ball all night. Barely
I'm
moved.
not even sure if he was at 80%.
Barely moved. And we talk about it, Ash, and we appreciate it. Again, 75 to 80% is the number we talk about. If you get 75 to 80% of Joel Embiid, he cannot have the turnovers that he had early on in that game that put them in the hole that they did. He cannot have those missed opportunities 6 feet and in like he did in the game. But
Chicago up 18 on the Hawks. 18. That team freaking sucks.
Get out.
Get the fact.
The Sixers.
Fucking Doc, man. That should have been a conference finals.
Exactly.
Nobody would be talking shit on Embiid right now. No. Unbelievable.
Exactly.
Team sucks.
Ruined their future because they thought they were better than they were when they needed to realize that the Sixers gave them that series and they should not. That's their problem too because they're going to lose and they're going to be out and they're going to have some changes to make. DeJounte Murray is going to be out of there. I wonder if Trae Young gets traded. Again, their problem.
Well, they're breaking those duo up. They have to.
They're going to break that team up.
At some point, you have to get results and they haven't gotten shit.
No question about it. But as we sit here with you, and maybe you were doing this during the game, both the Phillies played. They won tonight, a close one. Maybe you were a little bit worried. Maybe you did bet. Sixers, we gave you some bet props there before the game, some best bets there for the basketball game. I did, to the Bet Parks app to look at what the numbers were there, to throw at you guys for some different things. I asked about Joel Embiid. Is he going to be, I think, 25 over under we gave Derek? 27, I think the number was we gave them. He was under. And Derek said under.
I said two things. I said, I will take the over on the points, but they can win if he's under. And
that's exactly what they did at 23.
It was a little dicier than I thought.
Right. We missed on the Buddy Hield. Oh, no, he didn't. Maybe because Buddy Hield, how many did he make? Buddy Hield made tonight, he made 1 3-pointer. We said over 2.5 on 3-pointers. The way he played in the second half, I thought he made 2 3-pointers. But that was another one of our bets. Tobias Harris, also 1.5. Felt like that would be an over. He was over 3 for tonight. But that doesn't mean that you didn't win and win big on Bet Parks app, because that's the place to go if you do, in fact, want to get in the zone with Bet Parks Sportsbook app like I did before the game because I wanted to see the lines. Money is in the moments, and with those games happening tonight, Philadelphia baseball, Philadelphia basketball, both getting the win, I know you went to the Bet Parks app and play some wagers there. Now, you can do so the same tomorrow for the baseball team because they'll be back on the field. And as far as the basketball team, now you got to wait until Saturday, but more betting opportunities on Bet Parks app because they are advancing to the first round matchup against New York. Win big with all-day action. Win your first $10 bet and earn $125 in sports bonus bets. Where else are you going to get that? Right here, only at Bet Parks Sportsbook app. You play for fun, you love to win. You bet. Download the app and play along with us. Must be 21 or older. Please gamble responsibly. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem and wants help, call 1-800-GAMBLER.
We also want to make sure we talk to you about allergies. And this is one that I have real bad at this time of year. Get real bad.
Include me in that. I'm with you.
Way too much.
I'm with you.
The first step in countering allergies is to understand what causes them. So what are the leading causes? Pollen from trees, grasses, and weeds are a primary cause of seasonal allergies. Symptoms flare up when the pollen you're allergic to is in the air. Allergy symptoms usually appear shortly after exposure to the allergy triggers. Symptoms, which may seem similar to cold symptoms, often include itchy, red, and swollen or watery eyes, sneezing, nasal congestion, and a runny nose, scratchy throat and coughing, brain fog, which I will use as an excuse every time I say something dumb on this show, itchy nose, skin, or eyes, headaches, or a cough. If you're feeling sneezy If you're feeling sneezy, running, and itchy, it might be pollen allergies, which make you feel pretty miserable, but there are ways to get relief. So here's what you can do. Sign up for Rite Aid Rewards emails at riteaid.com/rewards to receive email pollen alerts for your area. If the pollen count is high, try to stay indoors, keep windows closed, and run air conditioners as needed. Remove shoes and coats near your door to minimize tracking pollen inside your home. Take a shower before bedtime to help wash away pollen from your skin and hair. Then there are over-the-counter options available at your local Rite Aid. Try a nasal rinse to help flush out your nasal passages. When symptoms are flaring up or when you know that pollen counts will be high, you can try antihistamines, which is available in a Rite Aid brand or the brand name Claritin. That's what works best for me. 1 to 2 weeks before pollen allergies are expected to be high, you can try a nasal corticosteroid like fluticasone. Should have pronounced that one beforehand. If that's still not enough relief, you can ask a Rite Aid pharmacist if a different type of allergy medication, like a decongestant, might be necessary. Visit your local Rite Aid today. Stock up on allergy relief or catch up on immunizations for RSV, shingles, and more. Walk in or schedule a vaccine appointment at riteaid.com. I drop a Claritin pretty much every day.
Dude.
This time of year is real bad for me.
I go with the other
I'm not
brand.
even like, I get in here, I think I'm getting sick every spring.
So my daughter, she has to go with that one because the other one that I use doesn't work for her.
Yeah.
So it's been tearing me up. So yes, Rite Aid is great to have them. Part of the entire company here at PHLY Sports, but also part of PHLY Sixers, because we are really bad when it comes to the allergies, and we definitely make that run to Rite Aid for sure. We got to do this one real fast. Matt Molnar says early on in the early part of the chat, Devon, please, one, go get him Nick for the man of the night. So our go get him is working. We just changed it from
Go
Ricky
get him,
tonight
Nick.
to go get him Nick.
It's not bad. It works. Probably should have thought of that one ourselves.
That's
I
all
had
right.
brain fog, seasonal allergies.
That's okay.
If I drop a Claritin tomorrow, I will remember that one.
That's okay. That's okay. Make sure you guys go out there and hit that like button. Let everybody know. Tell a friend to tell another friend that we are here and discussing everything with you here tonight. Real time with Prince Blue here tonight says the heat zone is majestic. I hate it.
It's very good.
Good win.
It's very good. They do a real good job of switching up their zone,
Thanks, Prince.
going from a 2-3 to a 1-3-1, overloading the strong side, and it's hard to figure out exactly what they're going to do next. They do a real good job of making that cross-court pass the corner difficult, especially on a team like Embiid, where it seemed like Embiid was a step slow today and a step slow in his decision-making. With Maxey, who struggles with that skip pass to the corner at times, the ways to beat that are tough, and they're able to vary it up possession by possession just enough where I think it's a little tough to game plan in the middle of like a run like that.
Sure.
Like it's one of the, we talked about this all the time. When they get you going, it's a snowball effect. I thought the Sixers did a much better job in the second half of putting the ball handlers in a spot where they could see their outlets better. And quite frankly, people just made better, quicker decisions with the ball, with the passes, with the shot, with everything. And that's the thing with the zone. When you start or stop barfing all over yourself, there are open shots there to be had. And Batum showed that in the second half.
Yeah, so overall, as we talked so much about Batum, and rightfully so, he's the player of the game here. Joel Embiid led the team in scoring with 23 points. Got to the free throw line. He rebounded the basketball. Certainly needed some help there. You got some help there from Kelly Oubre and Tobias Harris, but still too many offensive rebounds. They have to clean that up before they play the Knicks, because if we're talking about a hustling team, Josh Hart, OG Anunoby, Isaiah Hartenstein, they will hustle after that basketball and go for those loose balls. So you have to be careful. They have to clean that part of the game up. What else did you see in the second half? Let's start with Embiid to help turn things around, because some of it was I thought he was a little more patient and willing to let others win the game and not forcing things.
Atlanta on a 14-2 run since I yelled at them. That's all right. They're still
For
frauds.
being down 20?
They're still frauds. I don't care what they do this game. They're frauds.
Yeah. They have to play the Celtics, and both of those teams are going to get swept.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or they have to play Miami, and they're going to lose.
Sorry, I was watching the game.
Yeah.
What was your question?
My bad. Embiid, 23.
Yeah.
I thought the thing that stood out to me in the second half, because this really was about the second half and them coming back and winning. We'll get to the negative stuff later, or maybe even tomorrow.
spent a good hour and a half complaining about the negative stuff.
Live,
Probably.
right? Yeah. So what I thought his patience and willingness to allow others to beat the Miami Heat tonight was the main thing for me from him in the second half.
Yeah, I don't think he forced it. If anything, I don't even really think he forced it in the first half. I think part of the problem he had in the first half was that he was so methodical that he gave someone like Jimmy Butler a chance to come from, across the court and pick him off from behind. I thought, he did a much better job of not, like we said during the live stream, there's like an internal clock that has to go. And I think he did a better job of that in the second half. A lot of people will bring up the fact that he didn't look himself, and he didn't look himself. Like athletically, he does not look like he's back to 100%. He might not be back to 80%. And I'm sure we will dissect that in the coming days and weeks.
Mm-hmm.
But you can still be a very good, like, even if, like, I don't know if he's injured per se. It just looked like that 4 days off or whatever he had, 5 days off, impacted his rhythm, impacted his lift, impacted his conditioning a little bit. It doesn't sound like it should, but we've always seen when Embiid takes a week off, he doesn't come back playing his best basketball. The great thing is they got this win even without it. You have a chance now to have a 7-game series where every game, it's important, don't get me wrong, but you have a chance to bounce back if there is a tough one in there. I'm not all doom and gloom on the way Embiid looked. I think this is a team that can cause him problems because of the way they send help. And I think he just looked very, very out of rhythm. But I do think he was more in control in the second half. Both he and Maxey were more in control. I don't think Maxey turned the ball over once in the second half after having just a bunch of really concerning first half turnovers. I know we only ended up with 3, but for Maxey, 3.5 is and a lot of them were really bad turnovers. So I think both of them did a better job of at least taking care of the ball. And it's like we were saying yesterday, like we were saying in the pregame show today, if you don't turn the ball over, if you don't give Miami pick sixes, I think Miami was up like 18-2 or something on points off turnovers at one point. When you stop doing that, Miami's going to have trouble scoring against a set defense. And I'm real interested to see, afterwards when I start going through the stats and rewatching the games, what Miami's half-court points per possession were, because I feel like they really, really struggled. And at the beginning of the game, it was missed shots. But even so, I don't feel like they ever got into a great rhythm, except when they were getting out in transition, except when they were getting those pick sixes that Embiid and other players were gift wrapping them. So I give them all credit for cleaning that up in the second half. I think once they did that, it positioned them to where they could go on a run, even if they never really shot the lights out of the ball, although they made certainly some shots, Batum a big driving force in that. But they just executed a lot better against that Miami zone and even against Miami's half-court offense. Like they looked like they finally calmed down, whereas the first half they were second-guessing everything.
Yeah, man, and they really were. And he did pick up his awareness in the second half, where it cut down on the turnovers. The same for Tyrese Maxey, but they needed him to, make sure that he got those buckets in close and finished those. To make sure he made that extra pass. There was a pass there where Kelly Oubre got the and one at the rim. No, he didn't get the and one. He got the dunk, and that put them up 5. And then you had Eric Spoelstra call timeout because Embiid caught it. Oftentimes, you all watch it, and I know you do. You watch it, and he likes to throw a pass where he feels like he can just put enough strength and hit that pass across his body. So when we talk about in football, quarterbacks can't throw across their body. That's a no-no. In the NBA, sure, there are cross-court passes, but there's certain ones you want to make. And even with Embiid, he has to turn and square his shoulders. When we say the same thing about shooting in the NBA or quarterbacks in the NFL, throwing the way that they do, even if they're on the move, square your shoulders and get the ball out. He turned and pivot beyond the three-point line, hit Kelly Oubre because he allowed himself to turn and put, number one, he has his pivot foot in front of him. His pivot foot in the back and his strong foot in front, and to make that pass. And it was a tight window that he had to get that pass in there for Kelly Oubre, but he was willing to let it go, let it rip, and find him underneath that basket for that finish in close. And I have to give him credit for that, because for so much, and there are people in the chat still coming at him, and I understand that. But giving him credit for altering shots at the rim, getting a couple of those rebounds there on the defensive end where Miami was so good at getting those second chance opportunities, he did that. And if I'm not mistaken, as I look at the box score quickly here, for what he ended up with, I'll give him and Nick Nurse this. He had, on the night, 3 personal fouls he ended up with on the evening. I thought he had 4. And I got to give him credit for picking up those 2 early, staying in the game, not picking up another one, and then later on only getting 1 more to close out the basketball game, because that could have been a world of trouble for Nick Nurse and Joel Embiid. And Derek did mention Embiid is typically very good playing under that duress there, under that stress and that pressure of going out there with those fouls and not picking up that extra one, then forces them to the bench.
Yeah. And like I said,
so I give him credit for that too.
Well, yeah. And like I said this during a live show, I think Embiid generally does a good job of managing his fouls. When he gets into foul trouble, he knows how to play while still having an impact on the game, but backing off enough where he's not on the bench, because Embiid, even if he's only playing, 80% defense, is still the best defender that they have, certainly the best rim protector and the best deterrent. So that's something he's historically done. Something that used to drive me absolutely nuts with Doc. He would have an automatic 3 fouls and you're out in the first half. Yep. You don't need to do that. Let your stars, make that imprint. And the best way to have your stars in the game is to have them in the game. I know that sounds ridiculous, but a lot of coaches, when they have that automatic take them out, they are guaranteeing the very thing that they are trying to prevent, and that your star isn't going to play enough minutes to impact the game. So I give Nick Nurse credit for doing that. I give Joel Embiid credit for not picking up those fouls. I think that was important.
All right, when we come back, we'll talk about a few more things here in this game. Just want to tell everybody about our good friends from Bagels and Co. Tomorrow morning, I think before you get your chicken in the afternoon, that's going to be your lunch. I think your breakfast is very simple. Very, very easy and very simple. It's Bagels and Co. And we know who the player of the game, Bagels and Co. player of the game is. That is Nicolas Batum of your Philadelphia 76ers. So, Nick Batum, good for you. Go get yourself a bagel. It's on me. 1 bagel. Pass it around. Cut a piece, pass it around. Cut a piece, pass it around. Maybe 2, so you can spread it around the team. Brooklyn-style bagels made right here in Philly with Philly love. Huge bagels, biggest bagels in Philly. They're very large, hence the Brooklyn, New York style that we discuss oftentimes. Large variety, usually have around 15 to 20 different types to choose from. Daily, seasonal bagels as well. And certainly when you get to the sports side of things, both in Philly and Florida, when you look at the largest cream cheese variety of 30 different flavors of cream cheese and schmears, Bagels & Co. has you covered with the seasonal flavors throughout the year, of course, when the seasons change. But they also cater to the sports scene in both Philly and in Florida, wherever they expand to. For instance, during the Eagles season, Eagles cream cheese. Philly's playoff run, got you covered there. Basketball run right now, you better believe Bagels & Co. is going to have you covered with some 76ers style cream cheese as well. Check out the Instagram for the visuals. I've done it. I've gone to their website. I've gone to Instagram to see what things look like. I've actually been into the shop at my closest one nearest me. You can do that yourself. We'll tell you about that in just a little bit. But you can check those out to seek more about the brand. Affordable prices in today's inflationary world. You don't want to spend a lot of money for your breakfast when you're going out to get some food, right? For yourself or your family. And they think that's key. They've debated about raising the prices, but they've gone against it. Not a mom and pop type of situation here where they're an artisan mom and pop spot, but they have that type of feel. They want to be an everyday brand and not some high-end place that you only splurge on the weekends. You can go tomorrow and get your bagel, maybe get a sandwich and become, like you and others, a repeat customer. They have really good coffee. It's not $7 like Starbucks. Why go to Dunkin' and get a subpar product when you can come to us, Bagels & Co., and get a more premium product at the same price point? For the best Brooklyn-style bagels made right here in Philadelphia, head to www.thebagelsandco.com/store locator to find the closest Bagels & Co. near you.
We also want to make sure we tell you about Game Time, because there will be more games coming up here.
Playoff basketball, people.
We're confident there would be at least one more. That one would have been a little bit nerve-wracking. Now you're going to have at least 2 more, but hopefully far more than that.
Yes.
If you're looking to get to a game, Game Time is a place you want to go. Buying tickets to your favorite events shouldn't be stressful. I don't know if you saw, but you're going to have plenty of stress with these remaining games. Leave that to your team, not to your ticket vendor. Game Time is a fast and easy way to buy tickets for all sports, music, comedy, and theater near you. With killer deals on last-minute tickets and a best price guarantee, you can stop stressing over the tickets and start getting hyped for the fun you'll have. Game Time is the place for last-minute ticket deals. Forget planning months in advance. Game Time has deals on tickets right up to the day of the event, and the Game Time guarantee means you'll always get the best price. If you find tickets in the same section and row for less, Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. It's the fastest growing ticketing app in the country for a reason. With Game Time, you get images of your seat before you buy, so you know exactly what to expect when you arrive, and you can buy tickets in a matter of seconds. 2 taps and you're set, with tickets sent directly to your phone, so you never have to dig through your email. Snag the tickets without the stress with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code PHLY for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code PHLY for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed.
Let's run some of these super chats because we do have a lot of people in here. Where do you want to start, Bree? You want to go with Coach? Coach Lowell Ricketts. Our guy, Coach, checking in. Morey ripped off Los Angeles Clippers. Batum better than Harden. Give him the max. I don't know about giving him the max, but boy, he can have as many bagels as he wants because he pushed this team to a 7 seed and an opportunity to play the New York Knicks in this first round.
Yeah. I mean, look, I think for what they wanted to accomplish, first of all, getting Harden off the roster because he was not going to be happy and he was going to be a problem around the team. Getting the draft picks to make that next move. And what's encouraging about this is that they won this game and they punted on making that move. And that pissed a lot of people off at the deadline.
Yeah.
But if they can make a run now while still having those, trade assets, they have a lot of flexibility. And they got people, well, at least, one in Batum, who really did help them. Like that was very, very key. Like he's been a key player. And we mentioned for so long, for that 2 months that Joel Embiid was out, he fits a lot better with Embiid. And a lot of the shots he made, it's not like he was creating any of these shots. He stood there, had a super quick release, and was able to get them off without a whole lot of time. And that is what you need around Joel Embiid. And the first half was frustrating, yeah, but the second half showed exactly why he is a good fit next to Joel.
You know what's funny when you said that he didn't do too much, like the shot creation and trying to put the ball on the floor. It was funny because Derek, he did put the ball on the floor a couple of times when they were running at him to close him out and run him off that 3-point line. And I was like, good.
Yeah.
Because now that's something else that they're forcing you to do. And as long as you're not turning the basketball over, I have no problem with it. So,
but even that closeout is there in large part because the defender was shaded Joel Embiid's way and had to recover back.
Absolutely.
And having a functional dribble so you can attack a closeout because you are a good shooter and because you are playing off a guy who draws double teams every trip down, that's part of why you're a good fit next to Joel Embiid.
Think he'll be one of the people that get the podium game for Nick Batum?
I don't know. It would be hard to imagine that there's 3 other people that you would give ahead of him, but I guess we'll find out when Kyle checks in.
No question about it. Let's go to You a Fraud here. He has a few, so we want to get to the first one. Joel and Maxey are both having a big game in New York. There's no way they both have back-to-back bad games. Game 1, 6 o'clock Sunday in New York.
Look. Whatever happened
Saturday in New York.
Saturday, yeah. Whatever happened here today doesn't change my projection for the playoffs. Like this, playoffs are, and we can now talk about playoffs. Provolone, you hear that? We're in the playoffs.
Pre-playoffs tonight.
Playoffs
Saturday.
It's going to be a roller coaster. You don't have to freak out every game. There's going to be some games where Joel Embiid looks bad, some he dominates. Then there's going to be some in the middle. Same with Tyrese Maxey. At this point, you really are, you're trying to get Embiid back up to speed and rhythm. That's true. And pick up wins in the meantime while you can. Other than that, I still think this is a good team. I think they are the second most dangerous team in the Eastern Conference.
I agree.
I think they have a real chance now to advance. If they can come out strong against the Knicks, I think this is set up where there's a chance. I don't know if it's like a high above 50-50, but there's a chance you could be talking about a real legitimate threat to go to the Eastern Conference Finals. I'll just say threat to leave a little bit of wiggle room in there. But I think this is like every team that you look at, if you're a fan of the Knicks, if you're a fan of the Bucks, if you're a fan of the Magic or the Pacers or anyone, certainly the Cavs,
Right.
who have been limping towards the end of the season, you would be sitting here going, well, we can't win because of this reason or that reason or that reason. There are reasons outside of Boston to be pessimistic for every team, especially if you have a city like Philadelphia, where it does not take a whole lot to get us to our pessimistic side. That is one of the things we do best, is we bring pessimism until we don't. Think back to the Phillies a couple of years ago when everyone was convinced they couldn't make a run until they did. The Sixers have, every other team has as many questions as the Sixers do outside of Boston.
Yeah, and can we stick with Maxey for a second? Because he did finish with 19 points.
Mm-hmm.
Not only he has 19 points, you're like, all right, you can pinpoint certain moments, even though he may not have had a good game. You can point at a few things and say, Maxey did this, Maxey did that. This was one of the more quieter Tyrese Maxey games.
Yeah.
Of course, he took the elbow from Jimmy Butler early, in my opinion, inadvertent. And after that, he did come back in the game. He had a couple of drives to the basket, finishing when they needed some offense, and he had a burst again because we know that's what he does. But, I mean, Derek, sometimes these are tough because it's possible that he could have had a concussion, like a lingering thing, just because of the last one that happened. And then the fact that he simply got hit in the face with an elbow where it may have thrown him off. But not to speculate any further just because we don't know. But this wasn't one of his better games. But he did turn around, not turn the basketball over in the second half. As I said, scored a little bit where he had moments. But it was for them to win the way that they did, with Embiid struggling the way that he did, Batum, of course, picking up the slack, but Maxey to still have 19. He has now reached that level where you're like, all right, that's why we talked about him the way we talked about him yesterday for our show.
Yeah. And again, I'm going to go back to it. Like, yeah, he wasn't great today. 19 points on 6 for 16 shooting. Saved a little bit by getting the free throw line. Quite frankly, I thought he probably deserved another attempt or 2 or 3. Certainly, if you're going to call bullshit like a delay of game technical free throw, Max getting hit on the back of the head, felt like you could have given him 2 free throws for that. We won't get into that anymore. Or that would have been an and one. Did he make that shot? It doesn't matter. Point is,
no, it was an and one.
It was an and one.
Yeah. The one where it went off his hand and he tipped it with the left.
Yeah.
DeLon Rice. Hayward Heisman smacked him in the back of his head. Yeah, and he made it.
Anyway, I thought there was another foul or 2 he could have gotten to go his way. But I was just really happy with the way he didn't turn the ball over in the second half. And again, the outside shot wasn't there. He hit one early and then didn't make anything from the perimeter after that. Mm-hmm. He was making so many mistakes in the first half. Really representative of the entire team. They were just gifting Miami breakaway points. To clean that up and give yourself a chance just to get into your offense, even if you didn't have a monster scoring night. I was happy with the way he reacted.
Yeah, I was fine with how he ended. And he played the most minutes of the night, 43 minutes and 58 seconds. Joel Embiid played 38. I would expect that to hover around that number going forward unless they're blowing out their opponent. And again, he's going to play a lot of minutes.
One thing, like we talk about Miami, like, oh, they just throw a junk zone at you. Once you figure it out, you should be able to destroy them. No, that's a top 5 defense in the league. That is a very, like, Boston's a better defense, sure. That might be the Knicks have a good defense. That might be the second best defense in the Eastern Conference right there. So to have a little bit of a layoff where Embiid missed a game, hasn't played in 4 or 5 days, whatever it is, Embiid to play that poorly. Yeah, it was frustrating, but that was like, they're unique. That Miami defense is unique. Whenever we said the Sixers should be able to beat Miami, it's mostly because Miami's half-court offense shouldn't have been able to execute against the Sixers, more so than not respecting Miami's defense. Miami's defense, along with Jimmy, along with Spo, is the reason you gave them that appropriate level of respect. So, yeah, for them to come back out, execute better in the second half, fix up a lot of what was ailing them in the first half, and just get better performances all around, it was encouraging. If this was a 7-game series, you'd go, all right, they figured that out. Let's see what they have in store for the next one. Let's see what the next counter is from each coach. Luckily, you don't have to worry about that, but I did like that they turned it around.
Yeah, and also I want to give a little credit too. 3 for 4 in the third quarter was Buddy Hield. He had 7 points. We already talked about Nico Batum and his 9, and he made 3 3-pointers there in that third quarter. Buddy Hield had that stretch there where we talked about they need to go on a run. So outside of that fourth quarter blown layup that he had in the open floor against one of their defenders closing out on him to make him change the shot a little bit there, he should have made that layup. Outside of that in the second half, thought he was really good of helping them turn that game around in that third quarter to, again, push themselves as close as what, one or tied it up. They tied it up, I think it was in that third quarter. But for them to do that, to come back, I thought Buddy Hield, poor first half, because we mentioned how he did not play a lot in the first half because of how poor he was. And then Kyle Lowry being the only other one. And where was Campaign? Where were those minutes? Campaign got that 3 minutes and played well, hit a big three-pointer for the Sixers. They needed that. Buddy Hield, I thought, was pretty good in that spot when we talk about a specialist for what he does, hitting the three-pointer, also a driving layup. And that's why I think we thought he was going to make that other layup because he had just made one the time down the floor just a short time ago. But I thought he was good in the second half. Maybe not as good, but he was important for the run that they had.
Yeah, and again, that was really emblematic of the turnaround they had. In the first half, he looked very, very hesitant. Like he had open shots that he was passing up, passes that were a second slow and a second late and a little bit off target. And the second half just got cleaned up. It wasn't anything like he didn't have a monster second half, but he made enough plays to give you a chance. And everyone else sort of did that as well, whether it's big blocks from Batum along with those threes, or Kelly making a play here and there, Tyrese cleaning up the turnovers, Embiid making a couple of passes. Nobody was outside of Batum. Nobody was necessarily great, but they each did enough individually that collectively you gave yourself a chance to win. In the first half, it was the worst of the worst of the worst from everyone, including Nick Nurse and whatever scheme they had to go against that zone. Everyone just cleaned it up in the second half just enough to give yourself a chance to capitalize on a great defensive performance. And I think Buddy exemplified that pretty well.
Super chat, you a fraud? I think the Sixers starting on the road will relax them. I think playing at home makes the team tense.
Yeah, I don't know about that.
I don't know about that either.
They've had some really good wins at home in the playoffs.
Yeah. And by the way, playing at the Garden,
I would agree they were tense.
Sure.
I don't think they were relaxed.
Both teams were tense.
Yeah.
To start the game.
And when the Sixers then really struggled to take care of the ball against the zone, they got really, really tense. I'm just not sure that home necessarily played a factor.
And playing at the Garden is no.
It's not easy.
It's not a piece of cake there. So that one's going to be interesting for sure. And let's get
also
ready.
When I mentioned Winona in the chat bringing up Buddy's lob to Paul Reed, absolutely, that was a real good play, and a play that I feel like was there for quite a bit there throughout the night, and they capitalized on it, and that was huge.
And that was because of his driving and because that one three-pointer that he made and a few that he missed, he was still open. They had to respect it. Great pass from Hield to Reed. Reed was perfect from the floor, by the way, 3 for 3. He did have a block shot mixed in there.
Yeah.
Let's go to the arena where I'd imagine in the second half it was really nuts, especially when the chicken was one for the fan base. So we got to ask Kyle Neubeck. Kyle, while this is most likely the Nick Batum game, you phrased it perfectly when you tweeted out your recap on Twitter. Of course, you can all read it at allphly.com. Please go check it out after we're done here tonight. But that being said, when was it louder? One of the Nick Batum threes or when the chicken was one?
So I do think the loudest moment of the game was probably the Kelly Oubre N1 in the final stretch of the game. But I proposed it in the tweet, as you said. I don't know if that's the Chick-fil-A game or the Brooklyn for Chicken game or if it's the Nick Batum game. It was a wild ride. I'll tell you that. I didn't know what was going to happen because the only reason they're in that game in the first place, now give them some credit for playing defense and forcing Miami into some tough stuff. But if Miami had a real offense, they'd probably lose that game by 30 points. And so they're a little bit fortunate to hang around in that game for a while there. But given the fact that they got basically one good quarter out of Joel Embiid, given that Tyrese Maxey looked like he was seeing ghosts against the zone for the entire first half, that's an improbable win, and it's got to have the team, you guys, the fan base, everybody feeling pretty good because that's not the sort of game this franchise tends to win or has tended to win, at least in this era.
So I guess, how did you think Joel looked physically? Because there's been a lot of this debate and discussion about that in the chat.
It's tough to say. I did not think his lift was good. Right. But I will say I saw some great defensive possessions in space for him in the second half where he had smaller players on an island, which that can be a bit tricky for him at times. And he ended up holding up well. Now, that being said, he also got caught on his heels by Kevin Love, whose only job on offense is to shoot threes, and he's backpedaling on that one for God knows what reason. I think the important thing that I saw, and obviously it helped that they won the game because of this, but there have been a lot of games like this in playoffs past, or big games they've had in the past, where Joel just never finds it, right? You can tell on his face, through his body language, fatigue, whatever it might be, that this is not going to be his night. And he just never rallies, and it's up to other people to figure it out. Well, he got a lifeline from his teammates, Buddy Hield, Nick Batum, Kelly Oubre's defense, some other guys in the second half. And then when it was time, when it was winning time, when it was time for somebody to step up and win that game, it was all Joel. Hits a couple of threes, has the big offensive rebound where if he didn't have lift the rest of the game, went up and got that one in traffic, puts it back up and scores. Had some big defensive rebounds on the other end. And the final assist to Kelly, the big pass through traffic for the N1, that's the sort of read and pass that, frankly, he just wouldn't make in the past. But also for him to have the mental sharpness at that point shows me something about whether he was or was not fatigued, that he's still seeing the game at a high level at that point to get it into Kelly. And so I don't think he looks 100%. I think that's probably stating the obvious. But the fact that he was able to battle and rally and find what he needed to for the group, that to me is the best sign that we got from the entire game.
And
that offensive rebound was something we pointed out during the watch along.
Yep.
It was very reminiscent of like his first couple games back when he was, moving slow and looked like he was fatigued. And the last couple minutes, he dialed something up defensively to really save the game. It was huge.
Yeah. And he was real spry. And Kyle, that played to the Oubre, we talked about this during the watch along also. The thing that impressed me the most outside of the pass was the fact that he didn't throw it across his body first, and he then pivoted and allowed himself to drill the pass where he had his shoulders square and could make a much better pass to allow Kelly Oubre to finish right there, seal the man, and finish at the rim.
Yeah, look, so many times, if you go back through these big playoff losses they've had in the past, the issue has been composure. And that hasn't just been Joel, right? There have been plenty of other guys who have unraveled in different ways, whether it's Ben, whether it was James, role players. Tobias, certainly one of them. I don't know how much you guys have talked about him tonight and getting benched down the stretch, which I thought was pretty interesting. We could talk about that a little bit potentially. But Joel is always the guy that you got to hold to a higher standard, and he has had some subpar moments when they've really needed him in the past. So to have the presence of mind to make the correct plays in crunch time, that's a step forward from what we've seen from him in those moments before. So good job by him. We'll see what he's got against a much tougher team in the New York Knicks.
We mentioned it yesterday, Kyle, during our show after we came back from practice, but we talked about Nick Batum, and Batum was talking about different things about Miami, but he also said, and we talked about this earlier also, but I wanted to ask you, because we were there when he said it's a game 7, and he was very low key. That's who he is anyway. He talks very softly and all of that. But for him to have the poor first half that he had, come back in the second half to uplift where Embiid and Maxey are struggling, Oubre as well, Harris not scoring either, for him to then be the star of this game, he had to be the one that, the most unexpected one to really uplift this team in the way that he did. We've seen him help them win basketball games all season long, but in this manner, going 6 for 10, 17 in the second half to lead all scorers in scoring in the entire second half, and play 9+ minutes in that fourth quarter. That was something where we look at it, and this was the Kelly Oubre game. This is what happens in postseason.
You mean the Nick Batum game?
I'm sorry, the Nick Batum game. Sorry.
You guys have been talking for,
We've been talking for a while.
4+ hours. So
Plus we had
I'm going to give you guys
brain fog from
I just had
from
brain
allergies.
fog.
Yeah,
I just had brain fog.
I'm going to give you guys plenty of grace for that. Trust me. So Nico said at the podium tonight, he actually kind of made jokes at his own expense. He's like, you guys better not be expecting me to score 20+ points ever again, because that's just not my game. Most games I'm getting 2 and 3 shots, right? Like that's me. That's who I am. And I do what's required. He actually made a big point of, he pulled up the paper box score. So I'm going to wave it in front of you guys. It's the Jimmy Butler MCL injury. Yeah. So Nico pulls up the box score and he's like, aggressively tapping it, saying, I don't care about this. I care about doing whatever it takes to help my team win. And through a couple of different guys tonight, we heard that Embiid and Nurse in the locker room are given some instructions at halftime, like role players got to shoot it. They're obviously crashing on Joel, crowding the middle of the floor, leaving guys open, and they were too hesitant. And then Batum and Buddy Hield actually had some side conversations like, look, this is what we're out here for. This is our job. The looks are there. We have to let them fly. Nico pointed to himself and said, I was trying to do too much. I'm forcing passes in that I shouldn't have. You just got to take what the game gives you. And he alluded to the fact that, like, look, he doesn't have the legs that he used to, although I joked on press row tonight they might drug test him after the no-look tip-in and the one-step dunk from the perimeter that he had that didn't end up counting because a foul happened previously. But he's just the sort of role player every championship hopeful has to have, right? A guy who can just masquerade as in a bunch of different roles. Tonight he hits a ton of threes. Tonight he's defending Jimmy Butler. There'll be another night where he's just basically a decoy in the corner, or his connective passing is the number one thing. But he was outstanding tonight. It's going to get a ton of praise, and rightfully so.
Did they mention like any adjustments to the zone in the second half, or was it just people stopped being hesitant? I was going to use a much harsher word there, but
was it a word that starts with a P and ends with a ussies? Or
no, it started with an S and ended with a tupid.
Okay,
I don't use hard P's on this show.
Okay, as NBA players are wont to do, they mostly just said we were more aggressive, and that was the key to everything. So there was a little bit of that. I think they never want to admit to any actual schematic issues. They said we didn't execute what we wanted to do or what we should do. So they kind of left it at that for the most part.
Okay, fair enough.
So with that, you talked about Batum and Hield speaking, on the side, talking amongst one another about the role players doing what they needed to do. And before you came on, maybe you heard it, we were discussing just that, where Buddy Hield had that stretch in the third quarter when they made that run where he had some big shots, had a drive to the basket and finished that lob to Paul Reed as well, where while he also didn't play his best basketball in the first half, coming out in the second half playing much better. And Kyle, in order for them to do what they need to do against New York, we'll talk a lot about that over the next couple of days or tomorrow for sure, that they're going to need that to continue from Buddy Hield.
Yeah, look, I know our friend Provolone doesn't want to call this a playoff game, but I do think you saw a lot of the outlines of what it takes to win in the playoffs, right? Like I think Kyle Lowry was pretty essential to slowing down Jimmy Butler. The knee injury certainly didn't help him tonight, but Lowry was awesome yet again in that defensive assignment on Butler. But then when they needed some offensive punch, when they needed to beat the zone, Buddy Hield comes in, and after what I thought was a very passive first half, he steps up. He's more aggressive. Him and Batum found that synergy. There was still side-to-side passing in the second half, but it felt more purposeful. It was not passing side to side because they had no better ideas and because they were playing slow. It was to create the open space and stretch Miami out. And so Buddy did a good job attacking the closeouts that came as well. I believe you guys brought up the Buddy Hield lob to Paul Reed, which was, I almost fell out of my chair when that one happened. That was quite a moment. So it took everybody. And if this team is going to get where everyone wants them to go, it will take those type of efforts from Buddy, from Batum, from Lowry, from Kelly Oubre, maybe even Tobias Harris. We'll see. I won't count my chickens on that one.
Don't count your chickens, huh? Yeah. But, well, man, listen, you got anything else?
I mean, it looks like Kyle's a little bit distracted right now and has other conversations to get to. So I think it'd probably let him go.
Yeah. Or real fast, did they say, I mean, we just got the report about the possible MCL and looking at the MRI and all for the Miami Heat and Jimmy Butler. Was there anything that you heard as you were walking around about him? Because he was not in the game at the end for a few minutes there.
Yeah, we did see him in the tunnel. I saw him hanging out with Kyle Lowry. Obviously, those two are close friends. And that was prior to them playing together. And from what I noticed, I saw Jimmy limping a little bit. Now, you never read too much into the immediate after the game stuff because half these guys are walking a little gingerly, even the ones that are at 100%. But not looking good for him. Obviously, a credit to him and his toughness. He's able to gut it out. But I'm sure they are not feeling good right now heading into what will be the final play-in game.
That's all I got. We'll see Kyle in a couple hours here.
Real fast, at the end of the game, when Tyler Hero made the three-pointer, and then they tried to inbound the basketball, and Joel and Tyrese both tipped the basketball with 0.3 of the second left. Man, that's exactly how this game was playing out, where we were like, oh, shoot, what is happening here? Did you see that from your vantage point?
I did, and I know there were some words exchanged between Joel and Tyrese, and
then they hugged it
Tyrese
out and all that stuff. Yeah,
Tyrese was asked about it after the game, and he essentially said that he couldn't repeat what was said. So obviously, neither one of them was super happy with how that played out.
God, they start pushing each other and talking and yelling. I'm like, don't do this now, not now. Do this in the back. And then they hugged it out, and they were all love. But man, wow. Whew, that was rough. That was rough.
Dodged a bullet, fellas, but I will see you tomorrow. I want to get you guys out of there as soon as possible because I know you.
Oh, we've got like 20 more minutes of super chats.
We got
a
bunch of super chats, man. So
maybe I'll drive to the studio and
you could probably get here before we finish.
We got pizza and wings.
Yeah, we're good to go.
Pizza, wings, and candy, man. Party time. All right.
I got some good news for at least one of you, maybe both of you. No practice tomorrow. So
I got the
only
email.
have to come to the studio.
I saw the email.
I'm going to be here anyway, so it doesn't really matter.
Yeah. All right. Good stuff. Kyle, be safe, man. We'll see you tomorrow, 2:30 for all of us here on our PHLY Sixers show. Make sure you go read Kyle at allphly.com. Check out the recap. Thanks, man.
See you guys.
You got it. All right. Let's get to those but real fast. The 0.3 of a second thing again. We were sitting there. You were writing a lot.
I was trying to write the description for the show.
Yeah. And me and Bree like, yo, what's happening here? And luckily, there were just 0.3 of a second, so they couldn't even challenge it because the Heat players were on it immediately. And had they had maybe a few more tenths of a second, it would have been tough to get a shot off, but a lob to the rim and a foul, all of that stuff. Whew, boy, that was rough. All right, let's get to the super chats. Let's start off with Frank C. Was Nick exposed tonight? Awful job versus the zone. First super chat. Thank you, Frank. We appreciate it.
I like how Vince is in the chat updating us on our schedule for the rest of the week.
Did he?
We're apparently not doing a show on Friday, according to Vince. That was up in the air because we didn't know if they were going to play a game on Friday. But
we let people know.
Appreciate you. We do have a Slack. You can do that privately, but we appreciate the update.
We let the people know.
Yeah.
Let the people
That's
know.
True.
We're off Friday, so hang out with us tomorrow. We're off Friday, back Saturday for post game, of course. All right, what do we have? What do you have on the Nick? We're exposed in the first half because of the zone.
Well, I don't think he was exposed per se. Like, I just don't think they executed at all.
I don't think
the one thing
the
you can't
players
do against
handled it
a
well.
zone is hesitate. You can't hesitate on your shot, on your movement, on your passes, and everything was a hesitation.
It was so bad that even Nick Batum in the first half, who we trust within the zone, was bad. So I don't think he was exposed, Frank. They figured it out in the second half, and I thought they did a pretty good job of doing so. And they outscored the Miami Heat in the second half, partly because of that. We appreciate it, though. Thank you so much. Let's go to our good friend, the 2-minute warning. What up, Al? I think it's in JoJo's head. He doesn't trust his knee yet.
Could be. I mean, that's always one of the last things to come back from an injury is your confidence in it. And knee injuries can be particularly tricky, especially when you not only are a little worried about maybe aggravating the injury, but also you might just not have the lower body strength that you're used to. I certainly know when I came back from breaking my foot and you came back from your myriad
ACL
of injuries.
First, yeah.
It's in your head.
It took some time.
Sure.
Especially with that big brace on there.
It wouldn't shock. Yeah. No, he gets a constant reminder of it. Even if it's not in pain, he gets a reminder with the discomfort. It wouldn't shock me.
And
I 100% think
I can only imagine how many times we've seen it in the past with him where he rips off whatever bandage protection he has. He wants to rip that knee brace off every time he feels like it's gotten in his way. But you're right, Al. It's probably in his head. Maybe they're playing long enough where he gets more and more comfortable with that brace on his knee going forward. So, all right, let's go to Jay of the Jungle with the super chat checking in here. Heat pressure is going to throw players and teams off kilter. Nico, Joel, and the Sixers delivered in the fourth to the chagrin of you, quote, fans. Can't feel anything but great about this win. Well, look, they get a new lease on life here, playoff life, because they win the game they're supposed to get into the first round matchup. And while this is going to be a tough series against the New York Knicks, I think most people, to Jay's point, we quote the fans, wanted to see New York first instead of Boston as the eighth seed. So you got that part. It's not going to be easy, and we'll discuss that tomorrow because that's going to be, we might as well tell the people the show tomorrow, Derek, right? We're going to preview the game, the series tomorrow. But you take this one for what it is. Now they have stuff to look at. They can go look at the film, see where the mistakes were made, see what they can correct, see how they can get clean some things up going against a tough New York team that is probably going to be the favorite in the series. They started on their home floor, and New York at the Garden is a tough place to play.
Yes, it is. And look, some fans are negative because I almost feel like it helps them in case things go wrong. Yes, it's a coping mechanism. I don't think fans are like, I think everyone in this,
you're a fan because you want to see your team win.
I was going to say everyone, but it's not, because I know there are Knicks fans in there. I've seen some of you comment, but most of the Sixers fans in here are in here because they love the Sixers and they want the team to win. For the most part, I think we all have developed different coping mechanisms so that we aren't hurt anymore. Like, I think a lot of us, I can get this way at times too, think like if we are snarky, if we are bitter, if we are defeatist, then it's not going to sting. Well, guess what? It does still sting. It does still crush you. But again, if you weren't, you can't be in this chat and be uninvested in this team. So my argument, while I understand being defeatist, is you're going to be crushed anyway. Just at least enjoy it. At least enjoy the ride while you can. Most seasons, I'll go back to something JJ Redick said.
Yeah.
Most seasons, or not all seasons end in tears, but most of the good ones do. And that's what sports is. And it sucks. Like, the tears suck, the frustration sucks, the anger sucks, but you're not going to avoid that by being like, I told you they weren't good enough. You just get frustrated too. You just get to be a negative little shit the entire year too.
100%.
So I get it. I understand what what you're doing. I just don't think it's actually helping you with what you think it is.
Yep. All right, let's get to our next super chat. Ciao, Pedro Rodriguez. Viva la France. Nico Batum, ladies and gentlemen.
Yes, sir.
This was his game, man. And we got to give props to Money Mark because he also had Viva la France during the game. So, yes, Viva la France. Pedro, thank you. Really appreciate that one. Keep it moving. Vinny, telling people in the chat our schedule. Thank you. Letting everybody know that we're off on Friday. We'll be back tomorrow, 2:30. We all talk about can't wait for the playoffs. We can talk roster, off-season when the season is done. This roster and vibes are different. Time to believe in this team. When we talk about the vibes, yeah, I mean, you look at Nick Batum doing what he did today. Kyle Lowry finished. How many points did he have tonight? Like 5?
Yeah, not many.
Something like that. He had 7 points. He had a big three-pointer early. He was 3 for 10 from the floor. But, man, he had a tip there at the offense for the offensive rebound for Embiid to get the ball back right there in the final 2 minutes. Yeah. He did that. He got that steal at half court where he broke away from the team. He didn't get the layup the other way, but the Sixers did score on that end. People asked during those final 2 minutes, why is Kyle Lowry in the game? That's why Kyle Lowry was in the game. So you give him the credit. And that's why when we talk about the vibes being different, believing in this team, we saw it tonight where everyone trusted in each other in the second half to win this basketball game.
Yeah, and he had a very up and down night. Like 2 of those threes that he airballed weren't really his fault. He got ticking time bombs at the end of a shot clock. But he also had some really bad like pull up long twos early in the clock. That's like, that's not your role, Kyle. But he came up huge down the stretch. That steal was massive. Did enough to help contribute. Do I love Kyle being relied upon for 30 minutes per night? No. But because of his defense that he gave you, because he gave you another, strong defender against Jimmy Butler, you kind of have to live with it. This is where, like, if Tobias Harris was playing like I don't even want to say the $40 million guy you paid him to be, but just the guy he was with the Clippers, the guy he was earlier in his career. You probably don't have Kyle playing 30 minutes per night, but you can't rely on Tobias to give you that 35 to 40 minutes per night, be that extra wing defender, be that three-point shooter. He ended the game with only 3 3-point attempts. We were tracking that throughout the game when he missed the first 2. How many more is he going to take? We only took 1 more. Didn't make any of them.
That was bad, third one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can't, you need more out of Tobias, but none of us are going to sit here and tell you you're going to get it. So because of that, you end up playing imperfect options like Kyle 30 minutes.
All right, let's keep it moving. Clint checking in. What's up, Clint? Get Tobias some bagel money and so he can make a layup. Or Bagels and Co. so he can make a layup. I think the money sign was supposed to be an and sign, but that's okay. I think because we appreciate you contributing to the show and watching. But yeah, I mean, with Tobias tonight, he did have some rebounds. He had 10 boards, but he only had 9 points on 4-10 shooting, 0 for 3 from 3, as you mentioned. Split a pair at the free throw line. And there were moments where we were really like, all right, Tobias Harris, the typical Tobias Harris discussion. He did play 32 minutes, though, played some good defense at times, too, on Jimmy Butler, some of the others out there on the wing. But we'll make sure we do our best to make sure he gets some bagels so he can make some layups. All right, let's keep it going. Devon, a.k.a. Schoolboy Beats, checking in with us here on the Super Chat. We always appreciate Devon jumping in here with us. And Devon says, we move the ball and play with pace, attacking the rim and spreading the offense like we did down the stretch, not just playing through Joel. That's the recipe. And he has to be willing to share the basketball and be patient.
It's not like Joel didn't touch the ball down the stretch. He just moved it quicker.
He touched
the problem with Joel was in the first half wasn't the number of touches he got. It's how long the ball stuck with him.
Mm-hmm.
And part of that is I think they did a better job moving off of him. But part of it is he just made quicker, faster decisions. And this is why when we talk about Joe being in a flow all the time, that's what we're talking about. Like his processing speed in the first half was just too slow.
Yeah.
That turnover where Butler came and picked him off from behind, 50% on the people around him not communicating, 50% on Joel not having an internal clock. He didn't have an internal clock for most of the first half, and it hurt them at times.
No question. Our final one here. I think this is our final one. Dominic, fourth quarter yelling, thank effing Batum.
Seriously. They were dead in the water without him. They were absolutely, if he wasn't on this team, they lose that game, and we are panicking right now.
No question. No question. We had a lot of people in here.
So many people. My voice is already gone. I have no idea how I'm going to get through this one. We had a bunch.
We had a lot.
From Super Chats, I remember Jay the Jungle, 2-minute warning, Frank C, you
what
a fraud,
about
Clint, Vince Pellegrini.
Thanks for the pizza, Vince.
No idea who that is. Devon, a.k.a. Schoolboy Beats, Dominic.
Dom, what up?
There were a couple more that I remembered that I forgot to jot down.
Jay the Jungle.
I said Jay.
Are you talking about Super Chats?
Yeah, Super Chats.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
We got a long list of
yeah. Real time. You made Coach. What up, Coach? Coach in there as well. And
right. Everyone else, we've got Aaron, Mark Jackson, Eugene Ross.
Gene, what up, Gene?
Coach Lowell Ricketts.
What up, Coach?
Chris Mosley, Rudy, Joe Sox.
Joe
Wilson,
Sox. I
Joe
like
Sox,
it.
Yeah. Carla. Haven't seen you here before. Appreciate you dropping by. Cannoli, Remo K.
Holy cannoli.
Brandon Downer. Can't believe none of us have ever said that before. Like he's here pretty much every time.
I know, we had to do that
he's here
at least
every
one time. Yeah.
Front-running fan base, which might have been right. The username might check out. We saw that throughout the live show today.
Did. What up, front-running fan base?
And we all appreciate you. Smy Guy, Kane, Jeff, Frank
Jeff.
C, Elaine Bruno.
What up, Elaine?
Just T. Harris. I don't know if that's Terrell. I don't know if that's Tobias. Don't know which one.
What up to the member of the Harris
Whoever
family?
it is, we appreciate you nonetheless.
Yes.
Bootzilla.
Boots.
Nick Nurse's pinky ring.
We got to get it for the Eastern Conference Finals.
We do. We've got to hook that up. If you have recommendations on pinky rings for the crew, let us know.
We'll ask Nick Nurse.
I mean, it might end up being a more expensive pinky ring than we'd want to.
But we can ask
pay
him
for a bit.
We can ask him. Vince got it.
Cool. Ethan Sterner, Chris Papa, Winona.
What up, Nona?
3-time Flex Hoops. Money Mar, please sit down.
Not that one.
Not the original. Martian Lynch without the 33. I'm still a little heartbroken over not having the 33, but we'll get used to it. That's okay. It's your call. It's your name. You get to go by whatever you want. It'll just take us a little bit of time to get used to it. Maine, Luke P.
What up, Maine?
Hedva, Ash Monroe.
What up, Ash?
Brian
32 and
Knight.
8.
That's right. Spiral Out.
Spiral out.
Dan McQuaid, who is just now learning about the feuds we have going on in the chat. Oh, buddy.
Welcome.
It is every show constantly.
I can't wait to see what the playoff chats are like. The feuds.
We
You gotta band together because you only get 4 wins.
No. We need everyone.
You gotta band together.
We need everyone to not pay attention to them. X-Man.
What up, X? Always X.
I think Presidential Mike. I remember seeing Presidential Mike.
Yeah, Mike has been in there. Yeah, a lot of people,
I think that's all I have written down.
We have
apologize.
A lot of people. We thank you all.
If I missed you, we
Lil,
appreciate
Khalil,
each and every one of
everybody,
you. Yep.
Prophet One, we've seen you all in there. Sal, we've seen you. My mom watching. My daughters were watching. All of you hanging out in the chat with us for the pregame, hanging out with us during the watch along, and certainly here during our postgame show. We really, really appreciate it. I even saw where we had like 800 some people in here for this one.
Look,
all the people doing the watch along and the pregame. We can't thank you enough.
We'll be here on nights like tonight when you want to celebrate. We'll be here on nights when you just need some people to cope with. We will be here either way. But I think that is one thing that's great about this is there's a community of people who show up every night, not just the 3 of us that sit up here and talk out of our asses.
And Rich.
There's a whole group of people typing out of their asses in the chat. I think it's for the most part, there's a little debate here and there, but I think there's a lot of I think it's better to go through this with a group.
And that's what we're trying to do. We're making sure we continue to build this community. And we hope that you can stick with us. And if we've seen so many of you, and we hope that we do a good enough job for you to continue to keep coming back, but you also pass and spread the word to your friends and your family saying, hey, it's the playoffs. You guys are missing out. You might want to check out that PHLY Sixers podcast for post-game watch-alongs. And now we have the playoffs. Make sure you like and subscribe. And again, spread the word. And when you do, you will get that bell icon. Can we do one for pregame? How about the watch along? And finally, we get one for Bree, who did a fantastic job as always. For you and for Bree, we thank you. You get the last bell icon for everybody. We'll be back tomorrow at 2:30. Kyle will be with us. We'll be off on Friday. So tomorrow, it's our preview for the Sixers as the 7th seed traveling to New York to take on the very tough Nova Knicks, beginning on Saturday night.
It's a good thing we have Friday off because my voice is going to be completely gone by then.
And I love those guys, but damn, Jalen, Dante, and Josh have to go down. Yeah. We hope to have the Knicks people come in. I got to follow on here.
It's a shame. I like the team. I hate the city. I hate the fans.
And I love those guys, man.
In a bunch of different ways.
We got 2 championships at Nova because of them, and feeling good. I got a couple people added from New York in here that just started following, so you know why you're in here. And we thank you for hanging out with us. We're going to have some fun, lively conversation. But for Derek, Kyle, and Bree, I'm Devon. We thank you again for hanging out with us all evening long. We'll be back tomorrow at 2:30. We'll talk to you then. Gene, the bell's not dead yet. Talk to you tomorrow.
Is. It's very fickle, though.
It's
like, if you don't hit it in the right way, it's
then
mostly
you're done.
On us. Like, if you hit it like that, it sounds like shit. But if you hit it well, it works.
And we've been tapping on that for quite a few times. Everybody, good night.
We all silly like the mayor.